Okay, here we go.
And we are live here on Hot Tag Takes. I am your host, John BRECKO. Unfortunately, PJ Moore and my co-host couldn't make it today because of work, but that's okay. We'll see you here on Tuesday, my man. But this show involves a lot of the people of Mercer County, anybody that's looking out for the well-being of Mercer County. And I've mentioned on this show that I've wanted to be a little bit more involved locally, and that I've seen how when the station and, people from the local area come together, amazing things happen for everybody. You see a community that grows together, and a community that grows together is going to stay together. And I've seen that over the years, and I want to be a little bit more involved with this community, maybe even with just New Jersey in general, but especially Mercer County. And that's why I'm very, very excited to have this guest on here today. Who knows, maybe it might be the first step towards that. Ladies and gentlemen, BRYAN, BOCCANFUSO, Bucky for Sheriff. He's here.
Thank you, John.
It's good to see you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me here.
Very, very nice to have you in the studio. This has been something I've been looking forward to for about a couple months now. I understand, you've had about 25 years of law enforcement experience.
26 and a half.
26 and a half. And you've been retired. When did you retire, if you don't mind me asking?
I retired in December of 2015, so I'm coming up on almost 8 years of retirement.
Wow, man. Congratulations for that. Congratulations on running for sheriff for everybody. And congratulations for all the work so far that you've been doing to try to get out in the community. You told me about the difference it's made, being able to campaign, shake people's hands, be able to just talk to people and be visible with them. First of all, tell me about, the experiences that you've had, just going up to the different people, being able to talk to them about what your vision is, get that vision out there, being able to go on New Jersey 101.5, get that vision out there with Bill Spadia. Talk to me about some of your experiences working just to get that out there, with, TV, just people and otherwise.
Thank you very much. Yes, 3 years ago, as you're referring, I ran for sheriff, and during COVID, unfortunately, we weren't able to get out and shake hands. We weren't able to really have events, congregate, get people together to talk about the issues and what needed to be addressed back then. That unfortunately still need to be addressed now.
Yeah. More
so now than 3 years ago. So yes, getting out now, knocking on doors, canvassing, campaigning, however you want to, label it. I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
I'm a constitutional law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
So it unfortunately is a politically elected position. However, again, I'm not a politician.
You want to separate from that.
I'm a people person. I'm law enforcement.
Yeah.
Public safety is number one to me. So yes, talking to people, the concerns that I hear from people that don't have the knowledge of what our sheriff's officers do here in Mercer County. Some people don't even realize we have a sheriff's office here in Mercer County. A lot of people don't know who our current sheriff is.
I actually don't.
And I'm not here to talk about who that is.
No,
that's not my job.
That kind of makes sense.
That's not my job. My job is to let people know who I am, what I'm about, my background.
And what you believe it should do.
Absolutely. There's a lot of change that many years ago, our sheriff's office was very, very engaged in our community. And I say community as in all 12 municipalities of Mercer County, serving almost 400,000 residents, almost 240 square miles of Mercer County. So to be out there and be visible is a deterrent to me in crime. We have crime going on countywide. So talking to people and hearing their concerns, what they're really not understanding or what they don't get as to what's going on is that the crime is not just in, unfortunately, our city of Trenton, our capital here. It has expanded out to the local municipalities. From the common crimes of, shoplifting is a daily crime that happens. That's not something that has escalated, unfortunately or fortunately, to the extremes that we're seeing of the looting and other communities
Yeah,
out west in Philadelphia, other larger cities. But crime as a whole has gone up 22% here. That's a
Okay.
large number to
Yeah,
go up.
of course.
And a lot of it has to do with, I think, the lack of visibility of law enforcement being out on the streets, whether it's because of 3 years ago we had the great wording of defund the police because
Yeah.
everyone thought the police were not doing their jobs. Let's defund them. Let's try to change how our society should be. Law enforcement got a bad name, a bad,
Yeah.
look upon for some bad apples. And
Yeah.
bad apples make us look bad, and I hate that.
Yeah, no, but
I
it's the
hate that.
truth.
I hate that to the core. You're sworn to take an oath to provide people with their constitutional rights to protect them, whether you're a defendant, you're a victim, you protect everybody. Everybody has a right to their constitutional rights here in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to come here for. They want to feel their freedoms, be able to go about their lives, not worrying about what's going to happen if I go to a local store, what's going to happen to my children going to school,
Yeah.
what's going to happen to my vehicles. When I talk about vehicles, a large number of crimes that we're having countywide here are catalytic converters, part of an exhaust system.
Okay.
People are coming from outside of New Jersey, northern Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. They go out, they try to find a vehicle,
Yeah.
especially like SUVs that are lifted, they're easy access.
Yeah.
Even cars, but more so trucks. They're in and out within 3 minutes. The company I work for now, just 2 weeks ago, we were victims to it again for about the fourth time in
wow.
about 5 years.
Jeez.
On the surveillance video that we have at our work, within 3 minutes, they were in and out, got what they wanted, and left.
And I'm assuming it was with one of the trucks there.
It was one of the trucks, yeah.
Yeah.
A landscape truck of one of our companies
Oh,
that
Jesus.
I work for. And in talking to the police officer here in Hamilton, it was in Hamilton, he made mention that they were aware of a vehicle fitting the same description, 2 occupants that had gone to other businesses that night,
Yeah.
doing the same thing. So those crimes are happening, but on the major crime end of it, we're still having a lot of issues with our drugs
Yeah.
in our streets that are out in the municipal areas, not generally just in the city. Shootings, homicides, there's over 20 homicides countywide in Mercer County. That's 20 too many.
Yeah.
5 of those have happened outside of the city of Trenton, including Lawrence, Ewing. We had an unfortunate homicide over in West Windsor in which a lady was home at night. An individual broke into her home.
That's a
He
shame.
confronted her, and he murdered her. He killed her. Innocent victim of living in her own home in a great community, thinking that she's safe and
Yeah.
everything's fine.
Just trying to enjoy her night.
Right.
Just trying to
Yep.
be
Yep.
mind her business. Being
Exactly. So like I say, crime is on a rise and it's countywide. We had a couple kids in Hamilton here a couple weeks ago walking home from school, got confronted by a group of other kids. 2 of them were stabbed. Kids walking home from school.
Just walking home.
Right.
No, that's something nobody should have to worry about. Nobody should have to worry about, somebody walking home and a police officer coming. Should have to worry about other, kids that, might be on like another side of things that they have to confront, gang or otherwise.
No, absolutely
Nobody
not.
should have to worry about that.
And we do have gang problems. We do have
Yeah.
gang problems here in.
But gang related
yeah.
or otherwise.
Right. No, nobody should. And again, unfortunately, our sheriff's officers aren't out on the streets like they should be.
Yeah.
They've been in the courts, working in the courts. They assist other agencies.
I don't mean to stop you, but
No.
this actually brings up a point that you brought up when we were off the air a little bit. Your experiences when the state came down here and they were a little bit more visible.
Absolutely.
Just how much it improved things. People were able to shake the police officer's hand, and the people that actually, wanted that law enforcement to be there to stop some of the drug-related problems and the violence and everything that you're talking about. People were happy to see that, and they were happy to connect with those police officers. So, you were probably going to get into it anyway, but tell me a little bit about that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, back in 2016, the city of Trenton was having major crime issues, and they brought in the New Jersey State Police.
Yeah.
And it was a proactive unit that came in. They were on the streets. They made stops. They were doing their jobs as they were supposed to do, and that's what you want law enforcement to do. You don't want their hands to be tied. You want them to go
Yeah.
out there and provide public safety. And they were making numerous amounts of arrests with drugs, guns, getting people that were wanted for other crimes that were not picked up and had not come into contact with law enforcement,
Yeah.
and got them into the jails where they needed to be and not on the streets. And yeah, the city residents came out and applauded their efforts and what they were doing because it cleaned up their neighborhoods to make them feel that they lived in a great city of Trenton and could go out on the street, sit on their porch, and not have to worry about who's on the corner selling
could be
drugs,
safe.
who's driving by, a random drive-by shooting,
Yeah.
anything of that nature. So yes, it did bring in that sense of security, and a sense of public safety was there, and a mere presence was a big thing. For the presence of it, it got the drug dealers off the streets.
Yeah.
It got crime definitely went down. Homicides,
Yeah,
went away.
I'm sure.
They didn't have any of that going on. And then just this past summer, Trenton again had a big uptick in crime.
Yeah.
Shortly after Father's Day, they had a couple shootings. They had a shooting at Cooper's on 29.
That's a good place
yeah,
too, man.
Yeah, and
It's
they
a
were
good
every
place to go to hang.
Friday night. They were having a Friday night out event that they were having. They shut that down.
Yeah.
They put in a proactive unit, and I talked to
Yeah, I've
people-
seen that.
And I talked to members of their union, and I said, are the sheriff's officers working with you guys? And they said, no, they're not. And I'm like, what am I missing here? Why is
Yeah,
not a
that
county
doesn't-
law enforcement
yeah.
agency not assisting the city of Trenton with the
Especially
uptick in crime?
especially in a place where you're right by the river, because
Right.
that's where a lot of Trenton is.
Sure.
A lot
Absolutely.
of it is next to Cooper's. A lot of it is next to Trenton Thunder.
Yep, the waterfront is what they want to build up, and they did that to bring people to the from Pennsylvania, from Jersey, to go to the ball
that makes
games.
sense.
Right,
And you want them to continue to do that.
and the businesses want it.
Yeah,
you
of
look
course.
at the section of Chambersburg. All the
Yeah.
great restaurants that used to be there, they all left there because of all the
Oh,
increase
man.
in crime. And
You
they
got
were-
me thinking about when DiLorenzo's was over there, man.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. DiLorenzo's.
I used to go there as a
John-
kid, man.
John Henry's, Rossi's, all those places that you used to go to in the city, they're not there anymore. Everyone doesn't
Yeah,
feel
man.
safe going there.
No,
and it shouldn't be that way.
my parents when they were living in Jersey, they live in Florida now, but when they were here, they loved DiLorenzo's. They used to take me there all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, economically, it hurt the city, and the city's doing everything they can. I give a lot of credit to the city council, the mayor, in wanting to revitalize the city of Trenton. I went there 2 weeks ago and ate at a very, very nice, great barbecue place, 1911.
Nice,
I went
good.
there. Reggie and Maurice are the owners. They're great people. I spoke to them, and it was great to be there and feel, like, hey, they're trying to be
A lot of great people there,
try to
man.
vitalize the city and bring it back to where it used to be years ago.
Yeah, no, you gotta want that for it, and
Sure.
I love the fact that we're talking about it because I've had friends that lived in Trenton, and I've had that experience where I heard something I should have what sounded like was a gunshot to me, and it was very
Sure.
very close.
Right.
And I was like, let's go inside right now, and I got everybody inside, and fortunately everybody was safe, but you never know. You shouldn't have to have that experience.
No, nobody should
know?
be getting out of their car, walking around, looking over their shoulder, wondering, what's going on, who's walking the streets,
Yeah.
Is it safe? Are we going to be able to come here and go, out for a night out with a family or with friends and enjoy an evening without having to worry about your safety?
And just personally, I'm not really that guy that worries about, staying inside. But when I hear something happen, I was like, okay, we gotta make sure everybody's safe here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that was first with me. So the first thing that I'm gonna ask you that I actually have written down.
Sure.
So something that stands out to me is the experience you have in law enforcement, as we talked about. I actually wrote 26 years here. I forgot that half year.
That's
when
all
I
right.
wrote this down.
It's okay.
Forgot those extra 6 months of change. And it's at the federal, state, and local levels. So I want to start off with this before we start talking about what you want to do as sheriff. Talk to me about who Bucky is, how he grew up, how he became the person he is today, and talk to me about how your law enforcement career as well started and just how you got into that.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Because I want to get to know who Bucky is.
Sure.
If I'm going to
Yep.
vote for Bucky.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Princeton, New Jersey. I was adopted at birth.
Oh, wow.
Yep. My father was a police officer at the time with the Princeton Township Police Department.
Okay. My dad actually worked in corrections. He
Oh, did he?
worked there
Okay.
from 92 to 02 in Trenton.
State corrections.
John BRECKO Jr.
Okay, nice. Well, appreciate his service.
Yeah, man.
Tell him thank you.
I will.
Yep. So growing up in town, I went to high school at Princeton High School. I got involved with volunteering with the first aid squad. I got
Okay.
involved with volunteering with the fire department. I served as an officer with the fire department, all as a volunteer, as a lieutenant. So, be it that my father was in law enforcement, I always looked up to him, and I looked up to the fellow officers he worked with. They were all great, community-oriented. They were involved with sports. They were involved with the youth. You felt that if you ran into a police officer, he was your friend.
Yeah.
Somebody you could trust, somebody you could talk to. So being in that atmosphere and around that all the time inspired me to want to follow in my father's footsteps.
Okay.
23 years ago yesterday, unfortunately, he passed away.
Oh, it's a shame. Sorry.
I appreciate that. Thank you. But following in his footsteps and aspiring to get into law enforcement, to continue giving back to the community. I served as a public servant, as a volunteer, and in law enforcement. So I wanted to do that. So I started with the Princeton Township Police Department. I was there for a year and a half. My father retired, and I felt that I just at that stage wasn't ready to stay in town where I grew up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in a position where I couldn't do my job because, one, somebody knew my father,
Yeah.
and you get the name dropping, or someone's
Yeah.
going to say, hey, man, we went to school together. We played sports together. I just didn't want to be in that kind of position.
Yeah,
I really
of course.
just wanted to be able to do the job, do it for the right reasons. So I continued my career with what used to be the Washington Township Police Department.
Okay.
It's now Robbinsville Township Police Department. During my 25 years there, I served in various divisions within the agency. I started out as a dispatcher. From there, I went on and went to the academy. I was assigned in our patrol division. I worked in our traffic division, bike community policing, and finished out my career in the criminal investigations unit as a detective, where I always really wanted to be because that's what my father did for many years before he retired. He retired
Okay.
as a lieutenant. But I wanted to be a detective. I enjoyed patrol. I enjoyed getting out of the car, local shopping center, talking to the business owners, talking to the people, getting out of the car,
Yeah.
talking to the residents, community days, little league sports events
Yeah.
going on, getting out, talking to the coaches, talking to everybody, to give them that same community sense of, hey, it's nice to know who your law enforcement is. It's nice to
Yeah.
know who your police officers are. They're people you can trust, people you can confide in if you have a problem.
Yeah.
Open up that rapport of, don't look at me as somebody that's in a police vehicle and in
Yeah.
a uniform. I'm just like you are when I'm not here at
Yeah.
work. I'm just like any other parent
A
or
lot
father.
of people forget that.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's, So I do have two children. My daughter's 20. My son is 18. And I was involved in youth sports when I worked in law enforcement and coaching football, coaching lacrosse. I volunteered with Special Olympics.
What was your favorite position to coach in football? I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Defense.
you like defense?
I love defense.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love defense.
Yeah, I was always good at offense. I was
Yeah?
always a good pass blocker.
That's good.
Back
Yeah.
when I was playing football. So
Yeah,
I was just curious.
A strong line leads to
Oh man,
everything, so.
I could give that whoever was behind me all day when it came to pass blocking.
That's
man.
good.
I was an okay run blocker, but
Okay.
my strength was pass blocking, making sure you didn't get past me.
Well, that's it.
That was where my strength was.
Protect your quarterback.
Yeah,
Protect your leader.
Yeah, that's right. You need
Exactly.
you need somebody who can lead, and you need somebody who can be a strong wall for that person, can back that person up.
Absolutely.
Every leader needs that, and everybody backing that up needs
Sure.
that leader. You need each other.
So back into the law enforcement, like I said, I was involved in volunteering outside or with the job itself with Special Olympics. I served also for our union. I was our president, vice president, and also the state delegate for our PBA union, Robbinsville Township PBA 344. So I dealt with contractual issues. I dealt with fiscal issues within our agency. I worked for the men and women that I worked with to fight for them, protect them, get them a good contract or benefits or whatever it may be as a whole, because you're there for 25 years providing to a community. You should be able to walk away,
Yeah.
whether it's with your pension, your health care, knowing that you're getting something back in return for what you did.
Of course.
But again, when I was a detective, what I really, really enjoyed about the criminal investigations end of it was that in patrol, you took the report, you met with the victim in a bad period of time in their life that they've called for service and you to be there.
And hopefully you can help them.
And hopefully you can help them. You wear many hats, no matter what the situation may be. Whereas a detective, you bring a little more closure to a situation. If someone's a victim of a theft, catalytic converters, like I was talking about, an auto theft, car broken into, a house broken into. So you got into doing investigations, interviewing people, talking to people, trying to get the backbone as to what happened, why it happened. A fatal motor vehicle crash, we would be called out, take photographs of a scene, help investigate the totality of the circumstances, what happened with the crash. If it was a fatal, you had to do a vehicle inspection, you had to subpoena a lot of information, interview witnesses to something that happened. Again, trying to bring closure for people that were victims of crimes. And in doing that, that brought a lot of self-esteem and pride, knowing that I could help victims. Jewelry, dealing with jewelry and houses being broken into, that led to a lot of drug issues because people were stealing the jewelry from their parents, grandparents, going to jewelry stores, pawning it, and then taking the cash and getting their drugs.
Got it.
So there's more victims involved in that than was just the person who had stuff taken from. You have now someone who has a disease with drugs, and you're trying to help them out. So our department got involved with doing a program that took the individuals that were being locked up for drug possession, instead of incarcerating them, send them to jail, they get released. They still have their drug problem. They still have this disease.
Yeah.
They go back to what they were doing. We got them into a rehab facility. If they were willing to go to a rehab facility and try to get themselves clean, because they're the victim, their parents, their siblings, their grandparents are all victims of someone who has this disease. And it's not going away, and you want to get them help.
And you want to find a way to make it go away.
Sure. So we got them into recovery. If they went to recovery, they were successful, they stayed clean, those charges go away.
Yeah.
And that was a closure for everybody, so that they didn't have this hanging over their head. They got themselves back on the straight and narrow, away from the drugs that led to other crimes, that led to other situations. So as a whole, for a family, it was closure to feel that they had their loved one back and not lost in the drug world, unfortunately, by a disease.
Yeah, of course.
So that brought a lot of personal closure for me to see that happen. And I was involved with our narcotics unit, with the county prosecutor's office I was assigned to for a period of time, an investigation we worked. We got $1.1 million in drugs off the streets.
Good. That's good.
We locked up over 40 people. I believe we seized over 300 vehicles, ATVs, motorcycles, some properties, some guns. And it was a long, lengthy network of law enforcement working together, state, local, federal, to get this case and bring it to a prosecutor and get the prosecution of it. And the criminals, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but off the streets, fortunately, because it makes it better for everybody. Exactly.
No, that makes sense.
And unfortunately, people got wrapped up again because of drugs and a disease that made them go out and get involved in running drugs from New York City, coming down via either a train or a car, and we had to follow them and do surveillance, go up on a phone, wiretap, listening to conversations, trying to get information. So it was a good collective network of law enforcement working together to get rid of crimes that, were hurting a lot of people.
No, that's good, man. So the difference, because you were talking to us a little bit about the difference between, an officer and a sheriff. That's the difference between an officer and a detective, somebody that can go up to different, victims, talk to them, figure out what's going on for them. That's
correct.
A lot of the difference? Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, how's it been traveling to different areas of Mercer County, meeting all the different residents? I already asked that one.
That's
I
all
didn't
right.
mean to ask that one
That's okay.
as early as I did.
Yeah.
I had a little list of questions going down. This reminds me of when PJ was caught off guard a little bit last episode when he didn't get a lot of words in, and I just put up the phone to him, expected him to read it. All right, so I do want to get into your website a little bit for as long as we can, because that's where the majority of your mission and where your vision is that can be found
Yes.
without shaking your hand. And I know you want to go do that, but
That's
I
fine.
wanted to be able to focus on that mainly because that's where, you talk about it mostly. You could get a little bit of an idea of who Bucky is, what he's about, what he's trying to bring through social media, Instagram, YouTube, the commercials you've done,
Yes.
through Bill Spadia, stuff like that. But the main way that you get to, hear about Bucky's mission is through the website itself. That's where
Correct.
you have it kind of, detailed out and what you want to try to do for Mercer County.
Yes, I
So
do.
it asks 3 main questions. And the first question is, how will you improve on the current administration? Every one of these 3 questions you break down into smaller points, and the first 3 points you address in this question are visibility, which we've talked about a little bit,
Yes.
transparency, and accountability. I put them
Correct.
together because I believe they work with each other.
Yes, they do.
Right? And I believe what's typed out on your website's in front of me, so I'm going to quote what you say before I ask my first question.
Okay.
So for visibility, you say the Mercer County Sheriff's Office should play a leadership role within the law enforcement community and actively support the county's municipal agencies, especially in these uncertain times of law enforcement's vulnerability. Residents of our communities need to know the individual responsible for carrying out the duties of the office, and as sheriff, I will be accessible to residents, business owners, and visitors. I like how you include visitors, by the way. And I
Absolutely.
like how you've included, things have been involved with, New York, North Jersey, and probably even down south a little bit. We haven't even said that much, but I'm sure there's stuff coming
Oh, yeah.
up from there,
Absolutely.
I'd imagine.
Absolutely.
Business owners and visitors, ultimately fostering positive relationships. For transparency and accountability, you say, I will work to educate our community about the roles and responsibilities of the sheriff's office and all of the resources the office provides for the county. Accountability falls upon everyone in the office, and that accountability will start and end with me.
Correct.
So the first question I have is a little bit of a 2-part question. What are the responsibilities of the sheriff's office? Again, we've talked about that a little bit off the air, but for everybody that's listening, I would like to be educated on that as much as the next person should from someone running. And how will you make yourself visible to the general public of Mercer County on a daily basis? I'm sure riding around goes a lot into that.
It does. It does. So on the first part of your question, our sheriff's office is assigned generally to the courts here in Mercer County, Superior Court, County Court, in Trenton, the city of Trenton. So if you're going to court, if you're there for a civil matter, you're there for a trial, you're there as a juror, you'll interact with the sheriff's officers there.
Yeah.
If you're a juror, they transport you, you go to a central location, they pick you up and they take you from that central location to the court. They escort you, they provide security for the judges, the people that work in the courts, and the citizens that are coming in the courts. Any other county facility like our Trenton Mercer Airport, they're assigned there, working security there. Trenton Waterfront Park, Trenton
Okay.
Thunder Park, Cure Arena, any of the county facilities and buildings in the city of Trenton, Board of Election, various other buildings there that are county buildings, that's where they provide security. They're also involved with prisoner transports. So if a prisoner, someone who's on trial, they're found guilty, the judge summons them to serve time in jail, the sheriff's officers transport them up to our county jail up on Route 29 out in Hopewell. So they're involved in prisoner transports there. If someone gets locked up on a warrant that's out of our county, they're supposed to be going out of county, picking them up from whatever police agency and transporting them here to our county, to our jail, and doing that. The most essential part that they should be doing is, especially with our local municipalities, with the prisoner transports, that they're not doing. And I have a problem with that because I'll give you a smaller community, unlike Hamilton, who has, 40 square miles, large police department. You go to Hikestown, which is a mile square,
Yeah.
smaller police department. My department, 20 square miles, 4 officers, maybe at most. You may have 5 officers during the daytime. You have a lot of people around. Nighttime you don't, weekends you don't. So if someone is locked up on a warrant and that person has to get to the county jail, Sheriff's officers should be coming and doing that. They're not
Yeah.
doing that. So now the resource from your agency, your local municipality, is now taking that prisoner from the police department up to Route 29,
Yeah.
up to the county jail. And it's about an hour, hour and a half's time, round trip by the time they get up there, get them brought in. They go through getting physically checked with a nurse, other paperwork they have to go through, and then coming back. So that officer now is not serving your community for that period of time.
Yeah, he's
So-
away from he's away
Right.
from everybody.
So your community is now lacking full police service that it should have 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
Whereas the sheriff's officer should be doing that. When I talk about other things that they can be doing, they're involved with other agencies. We have a shooting response team. If there are shootings that are going on in the city, they have 1 or 2 officers that are assigned there to assist the shooting response team, as do other agencies. Will send an officer over on loan to the county shooting response team. They work with the U.S. Marshals, fugitive unit, a couple of the units that they work with, but they're not as involved as they could be countywide when getting out of the courts, getting in a car, driving through the city, driving, out in other communities. When I talk about the crime, the increase in crime, catalytic converters, other crimes that are going on, being more visible on the street can be that deterrent, as it was in 2016. And I talked about the state police coming in the city of Trenton. But it shouldn't just be in the city. Our tax-paying dollars here in Mercer County are paying the salaries of the officers and the sheriffs.
Yeah.
So they should be working for all of Mercer County.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things where I say having visibility, transparency, being out there working for the public to see them, to be that deterrent, especially driving, in a rural community and someone's, committing a crime and not expecting
Yeah.
to see a police car and, oh, wow, it's the sheriff's, look who's here.
Yeah.
Not expecting that.
And you want different people that are in their, communities, like people like in Hightstown, to be able to be in their, to be able to stay within their communities.
Sure, absolutely. The
That
officer
way
should-
they don't have to transfer people, hour and a half, 2 hours being away from that.
Absolutely.
Got it.
No,
All right.
not at all.
That makes a lot of sense. So scroll down here a little bit because I'm going to work down the list a little
Sure,
bit.
sure.
So visibility. Yep. Progressive solutions. Instituting an open door policy for both sworn and civilian members of the sheriff's office and establishing an environment in which they will be heard, ensuring that those working the courts, communities, and airport are part of the progressive solutions needed to modernize the services they provide every day. There was a part that was a little bit interesting to me. Why is the airport specifically a part of that? I understand making yourselves accessible to business owners, residents, and visitors like you talked about in your last point, but is there a specific reason why the airport is part of that one?
Again, it's a county-owned property.
Okay, got it.
The county owns it, county management. They have a fire department there, even though it's leased out to the TSA, and, Frontier Airlines currently has a contract with them to fly out of there. It's a county-owned and managed property. So there's where, instead of Ewing Township Police or Hopewell, who's on the border there, to have to take services from that police
Yeah.
agency to cover the airport, the sheriff's officers are. So again, like you say, visitors, you fly in there and you walk in and it's nice to see a police presence.
I put that together
Sure,
with it, but
sure.
I didn't know if there was anything else with it because you mentioned visitors come through there, but they also, and we've talked about it a little bit, they come by train, they come by car.
Correct.
So I didn't know if there was a specific reason why the airport was a part of that.
Right. And I know that in the future there's supposed to be an expansion to the airport to make
Okay.
it so it's going to be busier than
Well,
it
yeah,
is now.
that makes
Right,
sense.
Right.
I got you.
Right.
Okay. So I'll put your last 3 points together as well. Revitalization. Previously well-established programs such as K-9, child safety seat installation, and senior programs, including Project Lifesaver, have all declined while the sheriff's office budget continues to increase. I am committed to revitalizing these and many other programs that best serve the current needs of the Mercer County community while ensuring fiscal oversight and responsibility. I will engage the appropriate municipalities to secure shared service agreements that would help defray the cost of the local agencies and ensure that these important programs are available to those who need them, and then working together and breaking the cycle. You will work closely with all municipal police chiefs and directors to understand and support their needs by offering the Sheriff's Office resources as ongoing shared services or emergent need. And that separates no more pay it forward policies. I will modernize the Mercer County Sheriff's Office so that it serves the needs of all Mercer County, not just a select constituency. The reason why I put these points together is because I believe that you believe all of Mercer County can work together to fix the problems it has, making your resources available to police chiefs and getting rid of pay it forward policies as you describe tells me that you want to hold everybody in Mercer County that works in law enforcement accountable, and that you also want to give them what they need to put them in the best positions possible.
Correct.
So with that in mind, what are some things that the Sheriff's Office can do for child safety seat installation and the senior programs? I ask for them specifically because, well, we talked about it a little bit. I'm a swim instructor, so I work a lot with kids.
Okay.
And not only do I see parents coming in, but I see grandparents a lot as well.
Right.
So the reason why I ask for them specifically is because they're the ones who need the most help, not necessarily me and you. So I wanted to ask for them specifically and make a point to do that.
So when you talk about like the child safety seat program, it's a program that you go out in the community and you offer parents, grandparents to bring their vehicle with a car seat already installed in the vehicle and to make sure that it's properly installed correctly and to demonstrate and show them how to install it if it's improperly installed. And that program hasn't been expanded on throughout the county as it used to.
When I've got nieces and nephews, we should have that.
Yep. When I was a police officer, I went to the school for it, and we would collectively work together with other agencies. I worked with Princeton, I worked with Hamilton, my agency, West Windsor, and we would put together, a plan of let's do it this Saturday, we'll do it in West Windsor, and we would go over there and do it for the residents of West Windsor. Next weekend, let's do it in Robbinsville, let's do it at Marazzo's, Foxmore Shopping Center. You do it at a community
That's
location.
the one in Ewing, right?
No, there was the original one was in Foxmore and Robbinsville.
Okay.
But now there is one in Ewing, correct?
Yeah, no, because I used to live by that Marazzo's.
Yes, there is a Marazzo's.
That sounded familiar because of that.
But that's
I
where
used to go to Fork and Tavern all the time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
Keep
that's
going.
fine. Yeah, that's where we used to do it. West Windsor, we would do it in the shopping center or at their community park. We would do it where it's accessible for the community to come out. And it wasn't just for those residents. It was for anybody within the county who had a car seat, wanted to make sure it was, installed correctly. And if not, again, we would show them and demonstrate to them because we're held liable if we install it incorrectly.
Yeah, of course.
So we need to have them to do it because they're going to take it out to clean the car out, to travel, whatever it may be, and they need to know how to properly reinstall it. So it was a collective program that we had done that I don't see being utilized like it used to be, that you get grants from the National Highway of Traffic Safety, and they would give you grant money. So it's not coming out of your county tax-paying dollars. It's not coming out of your municipal taxes either. It's coming through grant money to offset the cost that saves everybody fiscally here countywide to do that program and to do it more regularly than I've recently seen. They're going to have one here, there may be one there. It's not as often as it should be, and child safety is just like public safety. It's number one to me in making sure that happens. When you talk about the elderly, you talk about, unfortunately, elderly. Now there's more assisted living facilities, but not everybody wants to put a loved one in and take them out of their confines of their home. I have relatives that don't want to be anywhere other than their home. That's where they should be, but they can't always have care and have people with them all the time. So there's different devices that you can use.
I'm actually curious. Yeah, you were actually about to go into the different devices you could use.
Yep.
So I was actually going to ask, is there a way to kind of keep people out of that nursing home? Because I've had experiences, myself with loved ones where, the people like in that certain household, they can't take care of that person anymore.
Right.
And they haven't had any choice but to put them in that nursing home.
Right.
So is there any way to keep them out of that nursing home? You were about to go into the devices, so I'm going to let you continue going.
The
'Cause that's a concern of mine.
The devices are where we can help, unfortunately with dementia, Alzheimer's. I went to arrange to qualify, and state park ranger showed up because a woman who was 51 years old had walked away from her home. And they had been looking for her for about 6 or 7 hours. It was a cool morning just about a week ago. south of here down in Burlington County, which is heavily wooded area, part of the
Yeah.
Pine Barrens. And the husband, excuse me, had what was the Apple AirTag
Okay.
that he had on her, but somehow or another, either she took it off or it wasn't activated, it wasn't working, they weren't able to track that way. But that's something that there's devices you put on their shoes, you put it in a pocket of their jackets, you
Yeah.
put it where they don't really know where it is so that they're not going to remove it and take it off so that if they do leave the home, now we're trying to find them. But another avenue of a device to use are drones. Drones have become, and I don't want to use it in the term of Big Brother watching because people feel that an invasion of their privacy with drones as to how
Yeah.
they're used in cities and other places. But you can cover a bigger area with a drone than you can by foot, by having resources of, people using ATVs,
I'm sure.
and even for suspects, not just dealing with the elderly, but you're also saving the cost of putting up a helicopter with the fuel that it's costing for state police
Yeah.
and letting them being utilized somewhere else to come out with an air unit to try to cover and canvass an area.
Okay.
So using drones have become a big law enforcement tool,
Yeah.
and that's another thing that can be used in this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Even with autistic children.
Yeah.
And I know I would get away from the elderly, but to the young.
No, I mean, that's absolutely
autistic
true.
children have this fixation with water and going to water. It's just a fixation. You deal with swimmers.
I've seen it.
You deal
I've
with
seen
swimmers.
it.
So that
And
is-
I've seen it with special needs kids.
Sure,
I have seen
sure.
it. You're
And-
absolutely
and
right.
And time is of the essence. You can get a bigger area covered by a drone than you can on foot looking for a young child who's running, full of energy, and they
Yeah.
take off in the woods and they happen to be autistic or have other handicaps.
Either way, I ask again for child and elderly because
Right.
they can't always look out for themselves.
No, and a
the
lot of-
drone can see things you can't. So I
Absolutely. And a lot of agencies, again, through grant money, donations, have started drone units. I was over in Lawrence a couple weeks ago. They have 2 drone units that are like $10,000 a piece that were donated by a business person because he essentially understands what that small air unit can do, cost saving from, like I say, an airship.
Yeah.
Taking, 2 or 3 state troopers away from something else they could be doing. Calling out your volunteer fire department or your paid fire department, here in the county. First aiders, law enforcement, CERT volunteers to come out and try to locate and try to find somebody. You can cover a bigger area than you can on foot.
Yeah,
And a lot faster.
Of course.
Again, weather conditions and daylight, can hamper those situations where you have to use people on the ground, boots on the ground, as opposed to, a drone. However,
In a lot of situations, the drone would be able to
absolutely,
help, you know?
absolutely.
I mean, it's better to have a tool than not have it
And
for a
and
situation like that.
when I talk about the canine units, our sheriff's officers have bloodhounds, which do tracking. They have canine for tracking, trying to find people who are lost, a suspect. A lot of agencies here in Mercer County don't have their own canines. Where I worked, Robbinsville, we had 2 of them. We still do. West Windsor does, but Ewing, Trenton, Hamilton doesn't. Their new chief is going to start instituting doing that, which I'm happy to see and hear. But it's another resource and tool from the sheriff's office that can be offered to all the agencies throughout the county here to work collectively together and be progressive and working together to not just be like, East Windsor, and I talk about this a lot of times now, is down to 40 officers. They normally are at 56. But
Okay,
because of
got it.
financial budget cutbacks, whatever it may be,
People probably got laid off.
they're understaffed. They're down to
Yeah.
40 officers. So that community is lacking visibility and services that it should be provided for the taxpayers. Why isn't the sheriff's officers out there helping them and providing a little extra visibility and helping the agency? And they're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
I
We're
mean-
here to work for everybody.
Let me ask you a question before I get to something that's actually probably a little bit more for me. So the sheriff's office normally works in the courts. We talked about
Correct.
that a little bit now. Do they have the extra manpower where they could let somebody out into the public? Are they able to do that at the moment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a problem I
Got it.
have. And to answer your question, I'll go back 3 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago, the courts were closed because of
Yeah.
COVID. Everything
Yeah.
was shut down. Trenton had 6 police cars firebombed shortly after the situation that happened in Minneapolis due to some bad cops, some bad apples that
Yep.
unfortunately we had.
And I remember when Trenton was locked down because of that.
And when that was going on, there was Trenton PD, State Police in Hamilton. There was no sheriff's officers. They weren't working. The courts were closed. This happened at nighttime.
That's
why,
insane.
why were they not there? Why were they not helping supplement and work together collectively with other brothers and sisters in blue and law enforcement and the community of Trenton at that time when something was in need for
They could have
public
helped.
safety?
They could have helped things to die down
Immensely.
faster.
Immensely.
Because this is back when I lived in Ewing. I was working in Amazon. So
Okay.
when I would come home, I would go down Olden Avenue, and I would see when Trenton was cut off because they cut it off on Parkside.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yep.
So, and I remember, seeing a lot of the different things that happened and a lot of good people that were affected by that weren't part of that, and even some good people that were part of that and were fed up on the other side of things. 'Cause
Absolutely.
A lot of people were fed up. Tensions were high.
Certainly
And,
were,
you
and,
know-
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like I said, unfortunately, you had some bad apples in law enforcement, and they're out there, and I can't stand it. I don't know any good cop that can,
No,
because we
I-
don't want
I
to be
agree
part
with
of
you.
it. There's bad people in other jobs out in the world, but we're held to a higher standard because we're supposed to be the front line of defense and helping people here.
But I like how you make that connection with, just I'm like you at the end of the day when I'm off of work. And I like how you make the connection. There are some bad apples in this. There are some people that, just aren't doing the right things because that can go in any job.
Absolutely, it
Right?
does.
I've been a lifeguard. I've been a swim instructor. I've seen lifeguards on their phone. I've heard about swim instructors during lessons that I actually had one lady switch to me because the other instructor she had before me go on YouTube during the lesson. Like I was thinking I'd be so embarrassed
I understand.
if
I
that was
hear you.
me.
Right.
And just I'm putting that connection with it, and I know they're two completely different things, but
No, but they're not because
it makes you look bad.
It
makes
does. It makes
everybody
everyone
look
look
bad.
bad. Right, it
And
makes everyone
everybody
look
has
bad.
to be held accountable for that.
When I was a field training officer in my agency, one of the first things I always taught and instructed a new recruit was always keep mindful that the guy you meet in the bagel shop today or at the coffee shop or in a food store or walking the foot patrol at the shopping center is the same guy and resident you're going to see next week and the following week and a month later. They're your people in the core of your community that are there to support you. Take care of your community first.
Yeah.
Because they're going to take care of you on the back end when you need to, when it comes down to contracts, when it comes down to, needing funding, needing help and support, a community event. Get your community engaged to work for you and with you, knowing that you're the good people and this is what you're doing for your community. And you're a roving billboard. When you're driving
Yeah.
around in a police car, it's a marked unit. You're a roving billboard.
Yeah.
There's no exception to the rule of using your turn signal, stopping at a stop sign, traffic lights. You're a set and lead by example. And I would instill that in everyone that I worked with. Let everyone know who you are. Get out of that car. Get on the street. Talk to people. Saturday, Sundays, driving by people working in the yard. Wave. Get out of the car. Say hello. Get engaged. Get to know the people. I worked as the executive director for our PAL Football League, and I started our youth police academy in the summertime at our police agency. Get everyone engaged and involved community-wise. They're going to help you and support you and be there for you in a time of need.
Even just taking that time to wave, it's
Sure.
not as hard as you think.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. People get to
Takes
know
2
you.
seconds.
Right. Instill the trust in people to know that, hey, they're the good guys, not the bad guys. Have kids get to know you that you're the good guy in a school. That, if I have a problem, I can come up to, Officer Smith, Officer Jones, say hi, and talk to them and feel comfortable with them and engage with them if they have a problem going on, whatever it may be, or just in general conversation, getting to know, the job. I'm going around the schools right now talking to the government and law classes in the high school, and the kids are asking me, if someone's looking to be involved in law enforcement, what do you suggest, and how do you get them engaged, and How do you get them, to want to do that? Because a lot of youth right now don't want to get involved in law enforcement because they feel the disrespect,
Yeah.
no backing. And we need that. We need that from our community. We need it from
Starts there.
our leaders. It starts from the ground up, and we need our community leaders, our mayors, our council, our residents to support law enforcement for the good guys going out there doing the right thing.
Yeah. So the next question is, and this is probably going to be the last thing
Sure.
because I actually have work. I would
Yeah.
love to get into the whole thing, but this conversation's been great, so
Thank
unfortunately
you.
we haven't had the time.
No, I appreciate it.
The next question is, what are your main objectives? You talk about the drug crisis with substances such as fentanyl, heroin, and opioids, as well as the spike in violent crime in Trenton. You probably know the event that I'm going to talk about, which is Art All Night, and you probably have an idea of where I'm going with this.
Okay.
For those who don't know, there is an event called Art All Night that's in Trenton. What it is, it's a 24-hour showcase of art, and all kinds of artists attend. My dad paints in his spare time, and he's got art all over my parents' out. He sold art here in New Jersey and the state my parents live in now, which is
Sure.
Florida.
Right.
And he's been able to do that in the last, 21 years he's been retired. So thankfully he didn't participate the year this happened, but in 2018 there was a shooting
Yes.
at Art All Night, if I remember correctly, happened around 3 in the morning.
Correct.
17 people were shot, one person was killed. Regardless of what the number was, that's 17 and one too many.
Absolutely.
So I almost went to Art All Night that year. I called up a friend of mine around 11 o'clock that night, and the only reason why we probably didn't go is because he didn't answer.
Okay.
So I ended up going home that night. And if he did, goes without saying, my night could have drastically been different for the worse.
Somebody up above was looking down on you.
Yeah, clearly.
Absolutely, John.
It was a bad time in my life too. 2018 was
I'm
not
sorry.
a good year.
Well,
So that being said, you make it a point to have a rapid response to crime and to initiate programs to help reduce violence and drug sales.
Yes.
A lot of kids probably remember programs like DARE. They probably remember classes about how bullying and how to respond to it, which that could cause a lot less violence. Trust me.
absolutely.
As somebody who was bullied throughout school, and how to respond to it, as well as speakers that come to schools and talk about their experiences and share some of the mistakes that they made.
Yes.
What are programs that you feel that work best as far as helping young kids not to go down, a little bit of a darker path? What are programs that best help others that still went down that path and now may have that drug problem? What are programs that you want to see thrive as sheriff of Mercer County? And I even understand you want to institute new ones.
Correct.
So talk to me a little bit about that. This will probably be the last point.
So like I just had mentioned on the back end of what we were saying before, currently going out and being invited to schools to talk to the government law classes in the high school right now is important to them to understand what the sheriff's office does, what the position's about, how we are engaged with the community, working with the youth. Again, going back to the event, unfortunately, that happened in 2018, it was a lack of visibility in regards to having a better presence of law enforcement. You go back to this
Art All
past...
Night didn't have that before that.
Correct. You go back to this past winter season of basketball, high school basketball, Cure Arena, there was a stabbing. It shouldn't be happening. Again, more presence, more visibility is a deterrent to those situations. I attended a high school graduation at Cure Arena this past June. There was one officer working. It was a Trenton police officer at the main entrance, and that was it. There was nobody else throughout
One person
the whole...
can only do so much.
Exactly. And not a lot when there's crowds of people. So getting out into the community, getting, again, like I was talking about, being engaged with the community, talking to the youth. When you talk about the drug problems, I talk about how we wouldn't incarcerate somebody, get them in recovery, putting them in the right contact with the resources that we have, that we network in dealing with City of Angels here in Hamilton, a large group of people who are victims, past problems with drugs, who are there to help the families. I just went to the National Opioid Awareness Night here in Hamilton, and I hate to have to say it, but nobody from the sheriff's office was there to engage and talk to the community and deal with what was going on. Again, it's a disease. We have over 3,000 people a year in the state of New Jersey that die due to overdoses with the disease of the drugs that are out there. Getting the drugs off the streets is by having more visibility, like I talked about in 2016. So there's a lot that hasn't been going on. For whatever reason, leadership within the sheriff's office isn't utilizing the officers the way they can and should. We have all the same training as a regular municipal police officer does. So there's no reason why they can't be out there doing anything to help educate, help enforce, have a presence of law enforcement throughout our county, working with every municipality, working with the leaders of our parishes, of our churches, trying to help them get into the churches and talk to the churches. I talked to a pastor a couple weeks ago. He doesn't even know who our sheriff is, and he's a pastor of a church in Trenton on South Broad Street. He also serves on a board that hires sheriff's officers at a high-rise apartment complex in Trenton, and he doesn't even know who our sheriff is. I have a problem with that, and it's not about, and I say this because in talking to other people who have endorsed my campaign, leave your ego and your personalities at the door. You're a public servant working for the people, by the people, upholding the Constitution. Be visible, be out there, be engaged with the community, working for the people and doing what's right for the public. Public safety is number one to me. So there's so much you can do if you just put the olive branch out there and get people engaged. PAL programs, youth sports, art, like you talk about. There's cultural events. There's so much that we can do to be more engaged throughout our county and working with the youth and getting them engaged to understand that law enforcement can and should be the good people to come to work with and to talk to and get engaged and involved like I do, going to the schools right now.
Art All Night, by the way, for a little bit of context, it did go on the next year, but it hasn't gone on in the past 4 years. Those first two were because of COVID. In 2022, it didn't happen because the building was deemed unsafe, and in 2023 was financial reasons. So just a little bit of context for everybody out there about Art All Night. And that was one of the few events that was going on in Trenton that was allowing that cultural experience to come in, and not even just that cultural experience. It gets local artists in general just out there. It allows people to have a way to spread their name, and it allows it to happen in the city of Trenton. So that's been a big loss for the last 4 years for that city, and I just want to put that out there myself. But what you're talking about, I actually learned, when I was getting some of my certifications, and it's to prevent the emergency before it even happens. A lot of what you're talking about is pretty much preventing that emergency from ever being a thing in the first place. It's important to know what to do in an emergency, but if you prevent that from ever happening, you can save so many more people doing that alone by itself, and it can prevent a lot of the problems that go on.
It can, John, and when we talk about the drugs and the guns, two examples of this past 6 months, let's say. City of Trenton had an uptick in crime. Friday Night Out was a big event that they had every Friday to try to get community people come out, but because of the uptick in crime, they shut that down. Like you're talking about the Art All Night, they had to shut it down because of the uptick of crime and what was going on. Again, that shouldn't be happening. People should be able to go to cultural events, whether it's at Mercer County Park, whether it's at Catwater Park, whether it's in the City of Trenton, outside in any other community park within our county, and feel that they have a sense of security, knowing they can go to an event coming out of our community, out of Mercer County, coming and visiting cultural events, and feeling that they have a sense of security, knowing that, hey, there's a presence of law enforcement. Not as there's a reason why we have them here because things are bad. We have them here so that things don't get bad.
Yeah, exactly. The way to prevent it from getting bad is to keep it from ever being there in the first place.
Right.
That's the best response you can have.
And the visibility is the deterrent, and getting the officers out of the courts, in the cars, on the streets, being out there for people to know and engage with them and feel that, hey, I feel a lot better knowing that they're around and they're here. God forbid there is an emergency. They're going to be here immediately to assist.
Exactly. So I appreciate the conversation 100%, as I've said. And I hope I've been able to kind of get your message out there a little bit more. The election is in 3 weeks, everybody. By the way, just so everybody knows, Where's the place where we could donate? Because I know there's a place on your website, but when I clicked donate, it was showing me a place to like put a message and everything like that.
If you go to my website, which is Bucky, BUCKYFOR, sheriff.com, go to the donate page. There's a donate form. You can print out that form, fill out the form, and it can be mailed to my campaign headquarters.
So that's how you do it.
Right,
Got
to
it.
my campaign headquarters, which is at 4 Black Forest Road here in Hamilton, 08691. I have T-shirts. I have a shirt hanging up behind me here. As a fundraiser, $20 a T-shirt. Lawn signs, you can email me at the BuckyForSheriff.com. You can email me. There's an email link. Any questions? If you want a lawn sign, if you want to donate to my fundraising for my campaign, which is essential for me to be able to get ads, get messages out there through social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Again, all Bucky for Sheriff. We do have 3 more weeks. I can stress out to everybody, please get out and take advantage of the early voting if you're not doing the mail-in voting. Mail-in voting should be done at the county boxes that are located throughout the county. If you check on the website for the County Board of Elections, they give you all the locations. They also give you the hours for the early voting. That starts on October 28th till November 5th. Get out and do the early voting. Last October, unfortunately, we had machines fail us in Hamilton and also in Robbinsville the day of voting. So people were doing a provisional ballot. They didn't know if their ballot counted. People were frustrated. We're trying to prevent that. The Board of Election is working with us with the integrity of the election to make it safer, to make it more confidence in the voters to know that they can go out there and vote. Your support is needed to make the change here in Mercer County. The whole ticket in column B 2023 we've been throwing out there to people to understand. That column is the column that's going to make the change that needs to be made here in Mercer County. The team that I'm working with from the top to the bottom, from the bottom on up, all want to make positive changes here in Mercer County. One rule party doesn't always work. It hasn't worked. It's failed countywide, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming events. You have some on your website. October 21st, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Join BRYAN, Bucky, BOCCANFUSO at the Hopewell Harvest Fair. I hope I'm saying your last name right.
BOCCANFUSO.
BOCCANFUSO. All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Now you're doing well.
That's going to take me some practice.
You're doing well, John. Thank you.
Same time, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Roll to victory with Bucky for Sheriff. October 22nd, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meet BRYAN, Bucky, BOCCANFUSO.
Correct.
There we go. At Hamilton Township's Oktoberfest. I'm going to get that wrong again, I know.
That's okay.
And October 26th, 10 p.m. Save the date. Cigars and dinner. Boy, I'm going to enjoy that one.
That event, I'm meeting Sheriff David Clark. If everyone ever knew,
cool.
Yeah, that's down in Gloucester County.
Nice.
I'm going down to meet him.
One of the radio stations that I used to work at, I told you a little bit about it. That was in Gloucester County.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 minutes out of AC.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be down in the Deptford area is where that's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an event that I'm going to. And the other events that you mentioned, Hopewell's Harvest Fest, I'm hoping it was rain date had postponed it to this Saturday. Unfortunately, they're calling for some showers, but it looks like they might be able to get it in. So I'll be there walking around to meet people, talk to people understand and meet me one-on-one to understand who I am. Besides seeing me here face-to-face, to engage with all the positiveness that I'm trying to bring to our sheriff's office here in Mercer County and to the citizens of Mercer County. And public safety, again, is number one to me.
Amen. That's great that you're getting out there for these events. One more time, I appreciate the conversation. It's too bad we didn't have enough time to get to that list, but I hope you get to make it bigger when your term ends. For everybody who wants to know, he has a list of shows that he's been in. Law and Order, Daredevil, all kinds of shows, and he's been able to do that in retirement.
Blacklist, Equalizer, yeah.
Yeah, but he's coming out to try to help you guys. So make sure you vote for Bucky for sheriff. I don't even know who anybody else that's running is. I don't know who our current sheriff is. So I'm imagining it's going to stay that way for the next 3 weeks. So you got my vote.
I appreciate it,
It's a little bit, almost unopposed as for me, but you got my vote, man, and I appreciate
it. And your listeners, I appreciate them taking their time today, hopefully hearing what's going on and what I'm about and what changes need to be made. And again, I'm working for the people of Mercer County, citizens before politics is how I say it. Absolutely.
I hope they feel that way as well. BRYAN, Bucky, BOCCANFUSO.
There
for
you go.
sheriff. This has been HamiltonRadio.net. Hot Tag Takes. I am John BRECKO. We will be back this Tuesday, October 24th, with Tammy Pescatelli. Make sure you guys tune in. Bucky for sheriff. Get out there and vote.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.